Hey everybody, my name is Deja and welcome back to my channel. Today I am doing my 2021 reading stats, and I'm also going to be doing some like superlative type beats because I saw Kayla do this and I was like, this would be perfect to pair with my stats because I feel like stats would be so short. So that's what we're going to be doing today. So I have a reading tracker spreadsheet that I revamped a bit for the new year, and I will link the video where I talk about that above, but I'm just going to be looking down at my stats and I'll pop in the graphs. So the first thing that I have is books by type, and I read 91 novels, 0 poetry books, 0 plays, 14 novellas, 0 anthologies, and 1 graphic novel slash manga, which was not actually a graphic novel or manga. It was actually a picture book. So I really feel like I want to read more graphic novels, but that means 85.8% of my reading was full-blown novels. Some books that I count as a novel, like A Dowry of Blood, I count it as a novel. Some people say it's a novella. I think it's a novel. So books by month, you can see that I definitely read a lot in March, July, and December. 2 of those months I was off of school for a bit, and then you can see that most of the double-digit numbers are when I'm off of school except for March. All the other months that I had school besides March and August, I started halfway through, I read less than 10 books. I forgot to say that I read 106 books this year. I feel like that's really important. I read 106 books, which accounted to 35,378 pages and averaging 8.83 books a month. And 7 of the books I read were rereads, including books that I read for a second time this year. Moving on to representation in books, I'm really proud of this because only like 10%, a little more than 10% of my books had no representation. All of them had some sort of form of representation.
I realize I'm like low-key blending in.
And I think the year before, like 30-something% didn't have representation, so it definitely dropped, and I'm really, really proud of that. I didn't do that on purpose, but I like it. So a third of the books had multiple representation. Then following that is that they had other representation. So this is like domestic abuse or something along those lines. And then 9.4% was mental, and 9.4% was also POC rep, and then religion is next, then queer, then disability. But some of those things, like maybe a book that I read had disability rep, but it also had other ones, so that would be under multiple. Then for indie published, 62.3% of the books that I read was indie published, and 37.7% was traditionally published, which means 66 books were traditionally published and 40 books were indie published. I did not know I read that many indie published books this year, and I'm so proud of myself for that. Like, I really didn't know, and I think that's amazing. And 28 of the authors that I read this year were POC. Then moving on to the genre breakdown, I broke this down into different romances. So 40 books that I read were contemporary romance. Then I read 5 fantasy romance, 2 paranormal romance, and 2 other romance, which is like sci-fi or suspense. So that means total 44.8% of my reading was romance. So almost half my reading was romance, and then the next genre is thriller, and thriller and mystery kind of go together. But I read 17 thrillers, 10 mystery, which counts for 25.7% of my reading. So about a quarter of it was thrillers and mysteries, and the other quarter that's left over, a little bit more than a quarter, was the other genres. And I've actually read 15 horror this year, which is 14.3%. I did not read much fantasy this year, not much historical. I read mostly romance, thriller / mysteries, and horror this year, which I feel like is my favorite genres, but I do really want to get back into fantasy. And then moving on to the rating breakdown, I started incorporating quarter stars this year. I didn't track all the quarter stars because I don't really give low ratings, so I didn't do lower quarter stars, but I'm not doing that this year because that was too much. I gave 0 books 1 star, I gave 0 books 1.5, I gave 8 2 stars, and I feel like this is definitely not indicative of my actual ratings, and I want to be better about that next year because I feel like I get scared to rate things low even if I don't like them. But then I gave 4 books 2.5 stars, 0 books 2.75, 13 books 3 stars, 1 book 3.25 stars, 12 books 3.5 stars, 3 books 3.75 stars, 21 books 4 stars, 2 books 4.25 stars, 18 books 4.5 stars, 1 4.75 star, and then 23 5 stars. So most of the books I gave 5 star this year, for an average rating of 3.9. And then for format of book read, I read 41.5% of my books via audio, 31.3% physical, and then 27.4% ebook. So the physical and ebook, I may have listened with the audio along, but I count it as that. And then audiobook is when I just listen to straight audio without looking at the physical or the ebook. And then for intended audience, I read 70 adult books, 20 new adult, 14 YA, and 2 middle grade. And this is kind of crazy. The middle grade is actually 1 middle grade and then 1 picture book. But this is crazy because the year before in 2020, I only read like 1 new adult book, I think, maybe not even. I read very little new adult, and then this year I read 20. 2/3 of my reading was adult, and then 18.9% was new adult, and then I only read 13.2% YA and 1.9% middle grade, so only a quarter of my reading was younger than new adult, which is how I want it. I don't really like to read books that are younger than new adult. New adult and adult is where I'm really loving my time right now, and I would show you my stats on Storygraph as well, but I'm behind on Storygraph, so we're not going to do that, but those are all my stats for the year. Now we're going to do the superlatives. These are literally taken from Kayla. I just removed some of the questions that I already answered by going over my stats. So the first question that I have is favorite 2021 release, and so obviously Dowry of Blood, Amari and the Nightbrothers, and House of Hollow are all going to be in here. These were all my favorites videos, so if you want more on these, check out that video. But besides those, Window Shopping by Tessa Bailey, I love and adore it. It's my favorite holiday romance that I've ever read. It is so good. I know some people didn't like it, but this is making me want to pick up like every Tessa Bailey book, especially It Happened One Summer. But I just love this book. I love the relationship. I loved like the commentary that was in this. I love seeing the characters grow. It was just so
chef's kiss.
I loved it. And then also the Heir by Sophie Lark was released this year, and I really enjoyed that book and can't wait to continue on with the series. I think that's crazy. Indie publishing is amazing because this book was released this year, not even at the very beginning of the year, like I think May, and all 4 books in the series are out now. Like, that's crazy. Some other 2021 releases are The Push by Audrain. I really like this one as well. And Things Have Gotten Worse Since We Last Spoke. I really like that one. Both of them had me hooked. Things Have Gotten Worse Since We Last Spoke is really disgusting and nasty, but really in a good way. Like, it grossed me out in a good way. And then this book I just think was like an interesting exploration of a mother-daughter relationship with some thrills in it, and I really enjoyed it. Then for favorite older title that I read in 2021, most of the books that are on my favorites list are backlist before 2021. So Pretty Girls was my favorite book of the year, so that would be the one. But besides that, Go Deep by Rilzy Adams I really loved. This book was so good, and I just love Rilzy Adams' writing. She writes only novellas, but I absolutely adore them, and I think they're so good. I read 3 of her novellas this year, but this one was definitely my favorite. Deviant King by Rina Kent I also really enjoyed. This book was a wild ride. I read the first 2 books in the series, and it is like the bully romance to the max, like where like if you are like, oh look, I don't really like bully romances, but occasionally like I'll read them, but normally I don't like them because I don't like the bullying, you will not like these. He is straight up mean and wants to ruin her life, like not cute, but I love it.
Because I'm crazy.
I am fucking crazy, but I am free.
The Last Time I Lied by Riley Sager is also a good one. This is my second favorite Riley Sager, and I really enjoyed this one this year. It was so much fun, and I love like the camp vibes that was in this book. A lot of these answers are going to be repetitive because I loved a lot of the same books, but the next question is a book that lived up to the hype. So obviously Amari and the Nightbrothers was super hype, and I actually really loved it. Elle Kennedy is just hyped up as an author, really popular on TikTok, and I love this book so much, and so is Punk 57. Punk 57 and Penelope Douglas is super popular on TikTok, and I adored this one as well. So these 3 were all my favorites video and definitely lived up to the hype. Besides that, I would say Things Have Gotten Worse Since We Last Spoke was really hyped up, and I enjoyed this one, as I said, a lot. And then Confessions by Kane Monato was really hyped up for me. A lot of my friends really loved this book, and I loved it as well. It was so good. A really amazing, fast-paced, twisty-turny thriller. They Never Learn is also my favorites video, but this one was really hyped up, and I absolutely adored it. I think the hype is very warranted, and I don't know many people who don't absolutely adore this book. So the next question is books that didn't live up to the hype, and that I have 3 for this one, and these are all really popular. These are not the worst books I read this year, but they are my least favorite books that I read this year, because when I read a book that is so hyped up and then it doesn't live up to the hype, I tend to dislike it more. So it doesn't mean it's like a bad book, but let's just say like logically to me it's like a 2.5 star, but because I thought it was going to be a 5 star, now in my head it's like a 1 star. Like I'm mad now. For that I have The Guest List by Lucy Foley. I don't understand the hype around this book. I don't get it. I guess the twist did get me at the end, but I thought it was so freaking boring. Like, it was just so boring, and I had no interest in like the mystery at all. Like, normally in thrillers I'm like, oh my god, what's gonna happen, and then the twist gets me. In this book there was like literally like I didn't care. And then I also have When No One Is Watching by Alyssa Cole. This book, I hated the end. The commentary in this is good, but I wish it was like a literary fiction, because there was like barely any thriller aspects throughout the book, and then she tried to throw them all in at the end, and I hated the way the ending was done. Like, I don't normally hate things in books, but I hated the ending of this. Like, absolutely just a no for me. And the last one is Welcome to the Dark Side by Gianna Darling. I did not like this book. I don't know, like normally like age gap does not bother me, and I'm a fan of age gap, but I think as I'm getting older I kind of like it less. But also in this book, I feel like he was just like,
oh my god, she's such a virgin, like her virgin blood is gonna be on my, you know, my wiener.
and I'm like, sir, like please, like I don't, like virginity is like a social construct. Like if she's bleeding, I don't think that's a good sign, my guy. Like it just freaked me out.
Did I lie? Did I lie? Did I fucking lie?
So the next one is biggest reading accomplishment, and I honestly have to say I finished the Illuminate series and the ACOTAR series, which are two of my favorite series, and so I'm really proud of that. And I also finished the An Ember and the Ashes series, and all three of those are some of my favorite series, so I'm really proud that I finished that. Okay, so the next one is favorite character of the year, and I have a lot, so I'm gonna run through these really quickly. So Misha in Pump 57, absolutely adored him. Like I saw this TikTok that was like, Misha is like Chase Atlantic, and I used to love Chase Atlantic in like middle school, and I was like, oh my god, Misha would love Chase Atlantic. So then I started listening to Chase Atlantic again. Like I just loved him so much that I literally started listening to a band again. Like what the hell. Then Constanza from A Dowry of Blood, I just loved her, and the way that she wrote these letters, and like the way that she took back a name, oh crazy. Summer from The Chase is one of the most relatable characters that I've ever met for me because of the ADHD rep. I have to mention it. Grady from the Seaside Cafe series, I love him. He's like a little detective, and he's a little cute.
Be a little baddie.
The only cop that I like is in this book, and him and his little son, like, oh, I love it. Obviously Pip in Good Girl Bad Blood, she's one of my favorite characters because she's also really relatable to me, like Summer. Nick from the Illuminate Files, I read Obsidio this year, which is the last book in the series, and his book is really Gemina, but he's definitely in this book. All the characters are in this book, and I love Nick so much. He literally wears my little soul. And both the guys in Wolfsong, Joe and Ox, I love, but Ox is like, he's such a little cinnamon roll. Like everybody told him that he wouldn't succeed, and then he did. We love to see it. And for favorite characters, I also have two other books that I want to mention, but those are both rereads. I did read Akko War this year, so that counts. Resand, obviously, and Nesta. I really need to read A Court of Silver Flames, but then also both the guys and Red, White, and Royal Blue. I love. So next up is least favorite characters, and there's one of them that I want to mention, but I cannot. So I'm going to go with more obvious ones. There's just one that's controversial, again, and that's Zeus from Welcome to the Dark Side. I can't with this man. Like, again, I don't mind age gap, but this man was straight nasty.
Man, boo. Tomato, tomato, tomato. I'm throwing tomatoes.
Obviously, Dracula, even though he's not named Dracula, in A Dowry of Blood, in Corey and Grown, they're literally both abusers. Speaking of that, William from Near the Bone, another abuser.
Electric chair.
Next up is books with most surprising moments, and obviously Pretty Girls by Karen Slaughter. I will not shut up about this book, and I'm sorry that it's in every like end of year, beginning of year content, but this is, I just can't. Then Verity by Colleen Hoover. The End of the Time He Shooketh and Shaken. I did not see it coming at all. I talk about it in my favorites video in depth. And then Rock Paper Scissors by Atlas Feeney. The end was my favorite part of the book. If the end was not as good as it was, I would have given this like 2.5 stars. Like the beginning had me, the middle dragged for me a lot, and then the end
Blew my freaking socks off.
Another one too though is Allegedly by Tiffany D. Jackson. Like this book you do not think is gonna have like a twist, but on the very like last page it has a twist, and I was so taken back. It completely changed the whole book, and it was just so good. Next up is favorite writing this year. So A Dowry of Blood, obviously lyrical as hell, and I love it. That's also why I like House of Hollow. House of Hollow has beautiful writing as well. I'm gonna say Good Girl Bad Blood because I love the mixed media in here, and like especially on audio, so good. So the next question is the book you pushed most people to read, and I'm going to go with Pretty Girls for that. I know a couple people have read this because of me. Since I wasn't really on BookTube that much, I feel like I didn't really push people to read anything. The next question is the books that you will be pushing the most people to read, and definitely I'm going to say Grown by Tiffany D. Jackson. I think this is a book that everybody needs to read, especially young adults and older. Like, this is meant for young adults, and so I feel like it's perfect for that age group as well as adults to read. It is triggering, but I think it's just important. It needs to be read. And then I'd say Amari and the Nightbrothers is like a really fun one that again is middle grade, so I feel like a whole bunch of people can read it. Like, I just think that it's such a great time, and I think this is a good replacement for Harry Potter. I know we don't really talk about it, but I think like if you like Harry Potter and you don't really want to read it and support it, you feel weird reading it, Amari and the Nightbrothers I feel like would give you that fix. And then They Never Learn by Lane Fargo. I feel like this is the thriller that most people will enjoy, so I feel like it's really recommendable to a lot of people. The next question is favorite newly discovered authors, and definitely Rilzy Adams. I read 3 of her works this year, loved all of them. Also Tiffany D. Jackson, I've read 4 of her 5, her 4 backlist. I just haven't read White Smoke, and I really enjoyed all of them. Karin Slaughter I would say, but I've only read 1 of her books. We're changing that though. And then also Sophie Lark. I read 2 of her books. One of them was like, I liked it, but I really enjoyed The Heir a lot. And Rina Kent, I read 3 books from this year. One of them I didn't really like too much, but the other 2 are in the same series, and I really love that one. Favorite cover this year definitely has to go to House of Hollow. I love that cover so much. It's honestly so beautiful. I love the flowers. And Amari and the Nightbrothers, I love this cover. It's so pretty. I love the way that Amari is drawn. And then Near the Bone is a good one. I really like this cover. I think it's like aesthetically pleasing, and I like how dark it is with the snow, with the cottage. It's really cute. The next question is the book that made you cry the most, and for me that's Wolfsong. I don't think I cried in any other book this year. In this book I sobbed for hours, like hundreds and hundreds of pages. It literally tore my heart out.
The best of both worlds, like when you take an upper and a downer at the same time. Like if you take a little Molly and smoke a joint.
And the next question is the book that made you laugh the most. Obsidio has to be the answer because the series is hilarious. But then also I have a copy, but I left it downstairs, and that's The Takeover by T.L. Swan. The banter in here was off the charts. It was so funny. But yeah, I think Obsidio probably beats it out, but both of them are really funny. The next question is favorite rereads, and so I reread a lot of books this year, but I read them like twice this year. Like I read them for the first time and then read them for the second time, so I'm not going to include those in here because then it would be like Dear Ava and Punk 57, you know. So Red, White, and Royal Blue, which I already said, and Aquamuff, which I already said, but these 2 are my favorites that I read this year. I love them so much, which is why I reread them. They're like 2 of my favorite books in the whole world ever. And then the last question is most surprising 5-star reads. Dear Ava for this definitely works because I didn't really hear too many people talk about this, so I didn't expect to give it 5 stars. I was just like, oh, let me read another bully romance. And I thought it was just going to be like another one, but this one really outshone a lot of the other ones, and I loved it a lot. And then Arsenic and Adobo. I didn't expect this one, but I really loved it. I think I actually gave it 4.5 stars, but you know, it's close enough. And I really like this book a lot more than I expected, but it's such a cute cozy mystery, and it's really unique, and I liked it a lot. And then also Verity. I did not expect to love this like I did because I read Ugly Love before this, which I was like, okay, whatever, Ugly Love is okay, I guess. But then this one blew me out the water. I didn't know what to expect because this book is very divisive. People love it, people hate it, and I didn't know that I was going to be in the camp that loved it, but I absolutely adored it. So I know I ran through those questions kind of quick, but I had a lot of books for each answer, and I feel like I'm talking about a lot of the books I read in this video, and then my next video is going to be ranking all of my 2021 reads. So I will be talking about every single book, including the ones talked in here, in that video as well. That one's going to be really fun as well. But that's all that I have for this video today. I'm sorry if I hurt anybody's feelings. Let me know if you loved any of these books. Even if you hated any of these books, let me know, except if it's Pretty Girls or Wolfsong. We won't be having words with those. But that's all that I have for this video today. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye everybody.
Trying to look like you winning. I'm writing rhymes in the kitchen, soaking in moments we live in. Yeah, you got the nerve to be on me, faking your life for the IG. If you got my number, don't add me, cause baby I'm on